How do you know if you should start a business or if you should just have a job? A lot of people are usually wondering this question. They are typically working a job and they're not sure if they should take that leap into entrepreneurship. Maybe they have an idea or they've always wanted to run a business by themselves and just see if they can make it. And so I'm just going to explain why I choose to run a business and why I think it's the only way that works for me. I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but maybe listening to some of the differences that I've noticed in both working in a job versus running my own business could provide some insight to you. My name's Zach. I've been a software developer for the last 12 years. I've also been running a marketing agency for the last 7, in which we've been able to generate over $13 million in revenue for our clients. So over the years, I've done both sides of things. I started out having web developer jobs and then eventually transitioned into running my own development agency, where I then quickly turned it into more of a marketing agency while still offering development services, kind of like a full service digital agency. Now, one of the things that always sort of was pulling me in the direction of running my own business was that I sort of like to work on my own schedule, and I like to set really ambitious goals, and I want to set them so ambitious so that there is also a really large incentive for me to achieve them. Because unless you work in a sales position, the more time you work or the better you do on your job doesn't necessarily translate to additional income. I also noticed that I just tended to always be thinking about work, even though it was a job where I could just stop working at 5-6 p.m. and then I didn't really need to do anything else. I was just always thinking about it anyways. And so I had always had it in mind to have my own business, but in the long run, it just ended up making so much more sense, because if you're the type of person who is always thinking about your work and always likes making things better and improving them, coming up with ideas all the time, then you could run your own business, take advantage of that fact or characteristic about yourself instead of like trying to keep it restrained. And then you can actually financially benefit from that. So for me, it just didn't really make sense to keep working in a job, and because I was going to think about it anyways, which then leads me into the reason why some people, maybe they might want to stay in a job. If you're the type of person who really believes in having like work-life balance, in that I don't want to think about work outside of these hours, then it doesn't really make sense to start a business. Because while you might think that the time flexibility then means that you can control your time, which it does, but it really kind of means that everybody is your boss. Like all of your clients are like your boss. So when they have a problem, you need to answer. And if you don't answer, that's fine, but they're probably going to switch to somebody else. So if you think that you can just get away with like full flexibility, work whenever you want, do whatever you want, you're your own boss, that's not really the full picture. And it's quite different than what most people think it is. They think it's going to be somehow easier. Like business owners just have an easier way. They just boss people around. And in some respects that might be true. Like, you delegate to people. But really, it's because it all depends on you and it all falls on you at the end of the day, because the employees or the contractors that you work with are not the ones who have to carry the balance sheet. They just get paid their hourly wage, but they also don't have any of the liability or the issues or the hassles. You are. And so if you're not okay with taking on that additional responsibility and always thinking about it, always having it in the back of your mind, even when you're on vacation, it's not really a full-on vacation. And nowadays it's getting quite popular to spread this marketing of, well, you need to work on your business, not in your business, which is just a further delegation and kind of abstracting yourself out of the business. It makes sense, but if you're not okay with doing that for years to then abstract yourself out, like if you think you're going to abstract yourself out in the first few years, to me, that's just crazy. I don't see how you could possibly do that. Maybe they're just way smarter than me, but it also means that, like, who is going to pay as much attention as you to your business? Who are you going to trust to raise this baby, this financial baby for you? And who is going to care as much about it as you? Long term, sure, I understand, like, abstract yourself out and delegate as many of the responsibilities to other people as you can. But even that, it's not because you want to just be totally removed from the operations and not actually paying attention to things. It should be more so because you don't want things to be dependent on you, like you're the bottleneck. You don't want to have to approve every single operation, because what if you get sick for 2 weeks? What if you do want to go on a vacation for a bit longer, like a month-long vacation? In the long run, you should be able to at least have that choice, because you've set up the right systems and have the right people in place. But to expect that anytime soon, when you're just thinking about starting the business, to me is a bit crazy. And so if you're expecting that to happen on a regular basis, like every year you still get to take a vacation, just like you did when you were working in a job, it doesn't really seem like a good choice to me. You might as well just keep doing what you're doing and just be really financially responsible and figure out how to get your finances in order that way. But starting a business and thinking that you're going to have work-life balance just doesn't make sense. Like, if we think in a very, very old sense, like imagine you were making a farm, or, you know, that type of like really, really old school, just trying to think on like a first principles basis. What work-life balance would you have? You'd have balance in the long run, in that you have seasons of harvest and you have like winter where you're benefiting off of the year before's work. But that means that the year before you've probably worked like crazy, almost obsessed, trying to finish things in time so that they would be ready for the next year. And so you're still eating off of last year's work. At the time when you're harvesting, that wouldn't seem very balanced, but it balances out over the year, right? Because, you know, you worked really hard for a period and then you get to take a bit of a break in a later time. So the view of balance needs to be really viewed as objectively as possible. Just because you've gotten used to having a 5-day work week and a 2-day weekend, it doesn't mean it's going to be that way when you are running your own business. Because, like, let's say that your store was having an issue on Saturday and, you know, you had people working there, but then a pipe bursts and now you have to go fix something. Well, what are you going to say? No, this isn't my hours. Okay, you can tell it to yourself and your customers who don't pay you anymore and don't go back because of the negative experience that they had. Or if you were a website developer and the website crashes for 2 days over the weekend and your client is calling you, well, they're just not going to use you anymore. And they might even try and get a refund from you. So you can talk about work-life balance, but in all honesty, like, you owe it to them for your thing to work. Is it a life or death emergency? Like, I've heard some people say things like this, like, well, it's not life or death, so like they can wait until next week. Maybe that's true. Maybe people are being dramatic about it. It doesn't matter, because if they're unhappy, they will just go to somebody else. And then you can say, well, those people are difficult. Well, I'm pretty sure just about anybody would be upset if their website doesn't work for multiple days, or the store is having a flood when they went there to get their things. Like, people are not going to like those things. They're going to prefer to just go to a place that doesn't have those issues. And if your competitor is willing to be a little bit more available than you, they win the business. So if you're not okay with those types of things, then I don't think it makes sense to, you know, aspire to have a business, because a business is something that you really have to baby in a way, because everything falls back on you. But because you're willing to take on all that responsibility, you have full flexibility in how much money you can make. It is like having a sales job where you have unlimited commissions, unlimited cap, you have all the benefit, but you have to take on all the risk to get all that benefit. And for me, I'm just always going to think that way anyways. I'm going to try to take on the responsibility myself. I'm always going to be thinking about work. Like, even if I mess up and I have to go get a job, I'm just going to end up starting a business again, because that's how I think, and that's just how I want things to be. I like how it works. Is it hard? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. Has it seemed really appealing to just go back and work a normal job with set hours and I just have a set hourly wage? Yeah, it seemed appealing, but I know myself well enough. I mean, I worked a normal job for years, and I transitioned to this, and I've never wanted to go back, even though at times maybe it was like tempting because of the stability and the reliable income, because you don't have to worry so much about the fluctuations. I fully get why people do it. It just doesn't work for me. I have different goals. Not that I care about buying a bunch of fancy things, like, you see the clothes that I wear. It's just very normal. I like just very functional things, like nice quality, but not too fancy. That's just what I like. And so I don't have some huge financial aspirations, like I want to buy Gucci bags and Maseratis. I don't care about any of that stuff. But I do have large financial goals, in that I just want to see what's the best that I can do, kind of like a game, right? So for me, it makes sense. For some, it probably makes sense as well, and for others, maybe not so much. That being said, it's not like I think that starting a business means that you are like better than people who can just work a job. I think it takes a tremendous amount of discipline and humility to work a job for many years reliably, just to be a reliable person, a stable person. That's one thing that I want to work on about myself. I wish I could be an even more disciplined person. I mean, I have discipline to a certain extent, but I always think it can be better. And there's things that I don't like about my discipline. And so I view people who just show up every day at the right time for 40 years straight. I respect that like crazy. Just the consistency. I think that is, at times more impressive than a lot of entrepreneurs. But of course, I rarely see people like that. Like, I only hear about people who used to be like that. I don't know people like that anymore, who show up every day right on time or a few minutes early. So I think that that's a rare attribute, and I'll always respect that. You don't need to be an entrepreneur for me to respect your discipline. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that think that it's supposed to be easy, and they're just whining all the time. I don't think it makes sense for them. I think they just need to figure out a way to make a job work. They'd be making more money just working a job that they like and being good at that job, trying to be better at that job, and then maybe having like a little side hustle or something. But what's the point in making your finances so unstable by having a company instead? It's become a meme, like, business owners working 80 hours a week, but in all honesty, like, does it need to take that many hours? No, not exactly. I mean, because after a certain amount each day, your brain isn't really working that well anyways. And so do people need to work every hour that they're awake? No, not really. But if you're working on a business that you're really excited about, you're really passionate about it, you love helping the customers, you really like this system that you're building, you kind of just end up working more, because it's not the same as a job. Like, nobody has to really force you to make your own life better. When you're just working on something that you're enjoying, and it's also financially making your life better, it becomes easier to just work a lot. And so when you hear about people online working like these ridiculous hours to get a business going, it's not just that they have to. I mean, sometimes maybe you have to, like, if you need to get something done because you need the money at that time, maybe you'll find a way. You'll burn the midnight oil. That's usually why they're saying things like that, because they just are really passionate about the business, and those people also really love working hard. And it is kind of like a skill that you do end up building over time. Like, your definition of what hard work is becomes way higher when you're running a business. I start working way easier now, and I will finish working way later and do way more than I did when I first started working at a job, just because I've learned how much harder things can get, and of course acquired more skills, right? And so I think that that is also a great learning experience for people. One of the subscribers to the channel, he actually asked me, how do employers view employees? And that was actually a really good question. And so maybe I'll just answer it a little bit right here. So I don't have technically employees, I have contractors, because there is a legal difference. And so you do need to be clear about those things when you are hiring people, because it could mean like you have to pay insurance, employment taxes, and so on. But that's a whole like legal thing. You need to consult your lawyer on what you should do and what your people are. But for my contractors, you know, I view the ones that are good at what they do as like a treasure, you know, because if you think about it, these are people that are helping you work on your projects, and they're making you money, and they're handling parts of the system that you do now not have to worry about. Not just do you not have to do the work, but if they make it so that you don't have to worry about it, like, I gave it to so-and-so, now I can relax a bit because I know he's got it, he's gonna take care of it, he's gonna do a better job than I would have done on it. So it's just pleasant, like you enjoy it. And so if you are working with somebody or for somebody and it does not feel like that, like they value you, then maybe they don't value what you're doing. Or it could just be that they don't know how to control that, like control the appearance of things. Because one problem that can happen, and it's happened to me, is if you hire people and then be a little bit too friendly, they can start to kind of think that they don't have to listen to you. They kind of start to forget that this is a hired relationship. You need to do what I'm asking you to do within the realms of the contract. And it's not really we're not on equal footing in this relationship. As humans, sure, we all have equal value and all of that stuff, right? But I've hired you, I'm paying you the money. You do need to fulfill your end of the deal. And if it becomes a little bit too much of a friend relationship, some people can start to get that a little bit mixed up. Now, if you don't think that can happen, go ahead and try it and try to be friends with everybody and see how that works. There does have to be a sort of a hierarchy. And so maybe what people who aren't so nice to their subordinates, maybe they are not able to properly measure that, like they don't know how friendly to be, they don't know how restrained to be, and so they just restrain completely and they don't let you know as much how much they value what you do. Is it something that you can learn? Yeah, of course. But you know, just because it seems like your boss is not that nice of a guy, it doesn't mean that they're actually not a nice person and that they don't value what you do. It just might be that they haven't learned that skill yet of how much gratitude to express without getting too friendly. Like maybe they really want to be nice to you, they really like you, but they don't want to ruin that relationship. So while I do say that it doesn't make sense for everybody to run a business, I do think that you will learn a lot about even how to be a better employee or contractor if you at one point do run your own business. You will learn how hard it is to find good talent. There's a lot of very like pro-worker messaging out in the media, and you will never understand how things really are until you've experienced both sides. So you will think, oh man, all managers and all bosses suck. They're all jerks, they're not appreciative. But once you've managed people, you'll learn how messy and unreliable people can be at times. You know, they'll tell you, yes, I'm gonna do this. Okay, no problem, doesn't get it done, or gets it done like 2 weeks late. People who you interview for a job, everything seems great, they're super excited, and then on the day they're supposed to start, sorry, I'm not gonna be able to start. I took another job offer. Okay, you know, I guess I'll just figure out who's gonna fill that spot today. You know, I had people ready to train you that day. And you know, some people will say, oh, well, that happens to people on the hiring side. I'm not saying that that's any better. Like, I'm not doing that to anybody. So you have to understand that it happens on both sides. I'm talking about this just to give a little bit more context as to like experience as running the business and on the opposite side. So I think it is a great thing to do for a period of time. Even if you long-term are fine with just working a job, it could be a great learning experience for you to run a business for some time. But the warning is the lessons can be very expensive. So try not to make too many expensive mistakes with hiring. Once you have figured out that it is not going to be a good fit, don't drag your feet on it. It's going to be a tough conversation, but you kind of have to, otherwise they're going to drag you down with them. That being said, if you can just continue to filter through and find really good people, it actually becomes a really nice thing. Working with talented people and hardworking people, it's just so nice. Honestly, it's a pleasure. It makes work even more fun, just being able to collaborate with people like that. I always thought it was a little bit corny when I would hear CEOs saying all this stuff about like how amazing their team was and they couldn't do it without their amazing team. I get why they say it. It makes sense. And it's smart of them even to keep giving credit to their team, because if they don't give credit to the team as well, it's going to make it very demotivating for the whole team. And why would you want to do that to so many people? So you should keep doing whatever you can as a founder or a CEO or whatever to try to make them as excited about the goals that you guys are trying to achieve, because they are on that journey with you. Even if you're getting the most financial benefit, they're on that journey with you. So wouldn't it be so much more fun for everybody to work really hard together and be excited about these long-term goals? Which leads me to another point, and that is that people are never going to be as excited as you, or very rarely are they going to be as excited as you are about the company vision and all that, without having like a vested interest. And Gary Vee has talked about this a lot, and I've experienced it firsthand, then running business with other people as well, where basically they would get upset that workers were not as hardworking as they were. And it's just kind of a funny thought. And Gary Vee pointed it out to me in advance, like, not personally, but through his videos. I learned this lesson from him, and then I experienced it in reality. And it was quite funny to hear people saying the things that he had referenced, like, why don't they work like I do? Like, I show up really early and I keep working and I work all day and really hard and I pay attention to everything. And it's like, because you get paid way more to do it. You get all the benefit, they get their hourly wage. That's what they get. So that's what the incentive is. So what do you expect? Like them to go as beyond as you do? Why would they? It just doesn't make sense. And so I've learned not to expect that from people. Like, I should never expect them to go to the same lengths as I do, because it's not their business. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you expect nothing from them. You do need to keep expecting their responsibilities, and you need to hold them to that, because you're not being nice to them or helping them by helping them to become less responsible and not meeting their responsibilities. Their life will not be better by being lazy. They will not be a happier person by not doing their job. And you're not helping yourself. You're actually just hurting all the rest of the members of your team. So if you're having a really hard time coming to terms with the fact that you might need to let go of this person because they're not meeting their responsibilities, you have to think about it that they are taking from not just you, because you might be kind of okay with taking a little bit of punishment, telling yourself, well, it's my fault, I shouldn't have hired them, or I should have trained them better. Yeah, maybe, but they are now hurting everybody else on the team, because they're putting the company under greater financial burden, which makes the rest of everyone else's employment now a lower probability. And so you are risking everybody else's financial future just because of your hurt feelings to yourself. But again, this is something that you can only learn by running a business, and it's not fun, but the rest of it makes it worth it. Like, once you've got the system set up, and the system will never be perfect, but you can always be making things better. And it's just so different. It's a different world from being an employee, but I do think it is really good for you to learn if you can. If you can handle it if you are in a position to, it is not something to do to make quick money. You might fall into an opportunity and like sell somebody something for a few $1,000s and then think, I'm going to make a business out of that. And you might be able to, but just because you got this one good opportunity doesn't mean that you're going to be able to guarantee that much work for every year after that. Is it possible? Absolutely. Don't worry. I'm not discouraging you at all. Just don't get too crazy with the initial idea. But all in all, I think it's mostly a function of your temperament. If you can handle the stress and you like taking on the additional responsibility, as long as you're going to get some benefit from it, which you would if you run a business, then I think it makes sense to work towards it. It is not really something that you should do just for the fun of it or just to think that it's going to be more fun. It is going to be harder. You are going to work a lot more. Unless you work on it a crazy amount for a few years, then maybe you can have a little bit more time flexibility. But if you want it to actually be successful enough where you can hire people and delegate things out and work on it less yourself, that means you have to work on it a lot up front. But with a job, you don't even have that option in the long term. You have to keep doing it forever, right? There's so many trade-offs. I really enjoy it myself. I hope that this video was somewhat insightful for you in some respect, and maybe it can help you decide a little bit about what you want to pursue in the future. If you have any questions about this topic or something similar, then feel free to drop them in the comments. But that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Bye.